In this chapter, we are going to explore one of the core building blocks of Java, that is data types. We'll understand how data types define what kind of values a variable can hold and how they help Java manage memory and maintain type safety. We'll start with primitive data types like integer, character, boolean, which store the value directly. Then we'll move on to some reference data types like string, arrays, and objects, which rather than storing value directly, store references to data in memory. We'll also see how Java's strong typing mechanism helps catch errors early and makes our code reliable. And along the way, we'll compare primitive to reference types and understand how they differ in the memory usage and their behavior. And we'll have a look at a practical code example to go through it all. By the end of this chapter, we'll know how to declare variables and how to convert different types safely and also write type safe Java code. Let's get into it, shall we? Start with what are data types and why they matter. Let's start with a simple idea that data types are like labels. They tell Java what kind of value we are working with, whether it's a number or a text, a true or false value, or even an object. These labels help Java understand how much memory to use and how to validate data and what operations are allowed on each specific variable based on that data type. So why does defining a data type actually matter? First up is the memory management. Each data type uses a fixed amount of space, like integer uses 4 bytes, double takes 8 bytes. This helps Java use memory efficiently, especially in larger programs. Then there's data integrity. If we accidentally try to store a word in a number variable, Java stops us with an error at a compile time. Code clarity is another one big thing. When we write something like integer count, that is int count, it immediately tells us and anyone reading that program that this is a variable of integer type and what kind of value that variable is going to hold. It's simple, clear, and self-explanatory. Java also uses type checking. Since it's statically typed language, Java checks all the types are correct before the code runs. This means you are going to get fewer runtime errors. And finally, valid operations. We can add numbers, compare booleans, and join strings, but we cannot mix incompatible types, right? Like you cannot add a word apple to an integer 5. So in short, data types keep our data safe, efficient, and easy to understand. Let's begin with the foundation, the primitive data types. These are the building blocks of data in Java and they are built right into the language. Java already knows how to handle them, so we don't need to define any special behavior. They are used to store simple values like numbers, characters, and booleans. And unlike objects, these values are directly stored in memory, which makes them super fast to access and also memory efficient. Let's quickly go through the primitive data types. Byte is the smallest integer type in Java. It stores values from -128 to 127 and it takes up memory of 8 bits. It's useful when memory is tight or when you know for sure that value is going to stay small within that particular range, like tracking someone's age or storing small counters or working with binary data in files. Then comes short. Short can hold a larger range of integers than byte. It takes up memory of 16 bits and it's great for slightly larger numbers like representing years, months, or compact data in mobile apps or embedded systems. Then we have integer, which is the default and the most commonly used type for whole numbers. It takes up memory of 32 bits, and whether you're counting users, tracking scores, or storing general numerical data, integer is the most commonly used type you can go with. Then comes long, which takes up memory of 64 bits. If you need to store numbers that are larger than int, then you can use long. You just need to add the character L at the end of number to indicate that this is a long number. It's ideal for large values like distances, timestamps, bank account numbers, or unique IDs which your code is going to generate. Then comes float. This holds 32 bits and it is used for decimal numbers with up to 7 digits of precision. You need to add a character F at the end of value to indicate that it is a float value. It's good for situations where you need decimals but you also want to save memory, like displaying prices or reading sensor values. Then in combination to float, then comes double, which holds 64-bit of value, and double offers more precision than float, supporting up to 15 digits. It's Java's default for decimal numbers, and it is used for calculations that require accuracy, such as scientific formulas, financial models, or measuring distances with high precision. Then we have characters, which take up 16 bits, and they hold a single Unicode character, letters, numbers, or symbols. Then comes Boolean. Boolean can only store two values, that is either true or false. It's perfect for decision making, like toggling a feature, checking if a user is logged in or not, or if validating certain conditions based on the input. So to recap, these are the 8 primitive types that cover the most essential form of data we are going to deal with, like whole numbers, decimals, characters, and logical values. They are efficient, easy to use, and form the foundation of Java program as we are going to build. Now that we have covered primitive types, let's move on to the next category of reference data types. These are used when we are working with more complex data like strings, arrays, objects, or interfaces. Instead of storing the actual value, the reference types store a memory address or a reference that points to where the data is located in the heap memory. They are especially useful when dealing with dynamic, large, or structured data, and they offer a lot more flexibility than primitive types. Let's quickly walk through some of the most common reference types we are going to use. The string. Strings are used to store and manipulate sequence of characters. They are one of the most frequently used types in Java program, whether you are printing messages, storing user input, or managing file names. Then comes arrays. Arrays let us store multiple values of same type under one variable name. They are perfect for storing lists, batches of data, and grouped items like scores, prices, or names. Then comes classes and object. We have discussed this in brief in our previous chapters. So objects are instances of classes. They represent real world entities with properties and behavior. For example, a car object might have a color, model, and the ability to accelerate or brake. Those are the specific properties of the car. Then we have interfaces, which are used to define contract that a class must follow. They are key part of abstraction in Java, allowing us to write flexible, loosely coupled code. In this example, this drawable is an interface and the circle is a class that implements it. We are going to look at interfaces in a lot more detail in its dedicated chapter. So in short, reference data types give us the power to work with richer, more complex data structures. They live on the heap and are accessed via references, and they form the foundation of the object-oriented programming in Java. Now that we have covered both primitive and reference data types, let's quickly compare how they differ across in a few key areas. Storage of values. Primitive types store the actual value directly in memory. For example, in this case, the variable a literally holds the number 10, whereas reference types on other hand store a memory address, a reference to where the actual objects live in the heap memory. In this case, the variable holds a reference to the car object, not the actual object itself. Primitive types have fixed sizes, like int is always going to have 4 bytes, char is always going to have 2 bytes. Reference types store a fixed size reference, but the object they can point to can be of any size, like arrays or strings. Primitive types cannot be null, they always need to hold some value. Reference types can be null if they are not assigned to any object. Primitive data types have default values like 0 for int, false for boolean, and reference types are by default null until they are initialized. Primitive variables are compared by value, that is, if x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 5, then x is equal to y. Whereas reference types are compared by references. Object 1 is equal to object 2 is only true if both variables point to the same object in the memory. Primitive values are immutable, that is, you cannot change the value itself, only reassign it. Reference types are usually mutable. You can modify the object's internal state or reassign the reference to a new object. We use primitive types for basic and fast operations like numbers, characters, or booleans. Reference types are for complex structures like strings, arrays, objects, and custom classes. So while primitive types keep things lightweight and efficient, reference types gives the flexibility to build much more powerful and complex object-oriented programs. Java is also known as a strongly typed language, and that is a good thing. It means that every variable must have a clearly defined type, and once that type is set, it can't be changed later. This approach helps catch errors early, makes your code more stable, and keeps everything predictable. Let's break down what that actually means in practice. Type declaration is mandatory. In Java, you always need to declare the type of variable when you create it. This tells Java exactly what kind of data to expect and how to handle it. Once a variable has a type, you can't assign it to something else. Java will block that assignment to protect the code from mismatches of data type. Java checks types before your code even runs. So if something's off, you'll get a compile time error. This means there are going to be fewer surprises when your program starts running. If you want to convert between types, Java makes you do it intentionally by using casting. You're telling Java clearly like, yeah fine, I know what I'm doing. So convert the value of this data type to the value of other data type. Once a variable is declared, you can't change its type. The type stays fixed to ensure consistency. Even when you're using object versions of primitives like integer, double or boolean, Java still enforces type safety. So in short, Java's strong typing mechanism may seem strict at first, but this is what makes your code safer, clearer, and much easier to debug. So let's quickly go through a simple code example to discuss what we have covered so far. Let's create a new class, and this is our chapter 5, data types in Java. I'm going to add a public static void main, and here we have it. Now we need to start creating some variables here. First, let's create a byte variable. That would be a byte of byte value, and I have assigned it a value of 100. And we can simply write a print statement to print out the byte value. And if I save and run the program, we have value 100 of byte value. In the same way, we are going to create some variables for other primitive data types like the short value. This is the short, and then we have integer. This is the int value. And then we have long, then we have float. For long value, we have added L at the end to indicate that this value is indeed a long value, and in float we have added F to indicate that this is a float value. Let's add a variable for double as well. So this is a double variable. Let's add a variable for character, and let's add a variable for boolean. Now if we save and run the program, we are going to see all the values which we have assigned. In this case we have 100, 3000, 10,000. In this case boolean is true. We can change it to false as well, and just say run the program, and it's false. The character is going to have just one character, so here in this case A. So this is how you're going to define the primitive data types. Pretty straightforward. Now let's create some variables for the reference data types. Let's start with string. So string is basically going to be a sequence of character. You place that sequence of characters inside double quotes to indicate that this is indeed a string. And if we save and run the program, you see string value is here. We will be discussing the other reference types like classes, interfaces, or arrays in their dedicated chapter. For now, let's quickly discuss how Java is strongly typed. For that, let's create another double variable. Let's quickly print out the value of this double value. So you see currently it's 9.78. Let's say I create a new integer variable of something like this, my int, and if I straight up assign the my double value to it, you see it's going to give me an error. It says that type mismatch cannot be converted from double to int, and it gives some fixes available. Now what's happening here is double is a different data type and int is a different data type. This is clearly a mismatch of data types. Hence Java is not allowing me to directly assign this 9.78 to my int, because integers are not designed to handle the values with points and decimals. So to resolve this, we get these fixes. It gives three options. It says add cast to int, or you can either change the type of my int to double, or you can change the type of double to int. So let's go with the cast fix here. So you see it has added this int in brackets in front of this. So what this is doing is it is basically converting this my double value to integer. This is the purpose of casting. Now if I go ahead and add a print statement to print out this my integer value, let's save the program and run. Let's have a look at these last two values. The double value itself is 9.78, but when it is converted to integer, it has lost that 0.78 precision. So that is the data loss you are going to deal with when you are comparing the higher data type to lower data type, in this case a double to integer. So you need to be very mindful of it when you are working with casting. So let's quickly go through another example to discuss the data loss in casting. We have created a larger number here. This is a long data type, and let's save the program and I run the program here like this. So this, you see, this is a large number, but now I want to convert this to a smaller number. I would have to create a new integer and then use a casting operator here to convert this large number into int. I can use double as well here. For now, let's just go with int. So now if we go ahead and print the newly created small number, let's see the data loss we are going to face. So you see it has changed the number a lot, and that is really not desirable. So you need to be very mindful of how you're converting the values from one data type to other and how you're using cast operator. And that's about the code example. Let's wrap up this chapter by discussing some of the best practices. Always choose the right data type for your problem statement. For example, use integer instead of using long when you're only going to deal with smaller range of numbers. So it's more efficient and it also saves memory. Always avoid mixing data types. That is, be careful when combining different types and operations. Adding an integer to a double might seem harmless, but it can lead to precision issues and unexpected results. Be cautious with type conversion. That is, when converting from one type to another, especially from a larger type to smaller one, use explicit casting, and also be mindful of the data loss you're going to see. Use final for constant values. If a variable shouldn't change after it's set, that is, like it needs to behave like a constant, use the final keyword. If you define a variable with a final keyword, its value is not going to change. Even though primitives have default values like 0 or false, it's always a good practice to initialize them explicitly. It makes your code more readable and avoids surprises. Remember, strings are immutable. If you are doing a lot of string manipulation, use string builder or string buffer. These are the two concepts which we will see in the string section. For financial or high precision calculations, don't rely on float or double. Use big decimal instead. So big decimal is another wrapper data type which we will see. These small habits are going to go a long way towards helping you write cleaner, more reliable Java code, especially as your projects grow in size and complexity. Wrapping up, in this chapter we explored the core of how Java handles data. We learned about primitive types which store basic values like numbers, characters, and booleans. They are fast and memory efficient for simple tasks. We learned about reference types which store memory addresses and are used for complex data like strings, arrays, and objects, enabling powerful and scalable programming. We also saw how Java's strong typing keeps our code safe, consistent, and helps catching errors before they happen. By comparing primitive versus reference types, we understood how they differ in memory usage, behavior, and comparison. Finally, we discussed some of the best practices while working with data types. With these building blocks in place, we are ready to start diving into the advanced concepts. That's about this chapter. In the next one, we are going to discuss variables. Till I see you again in the next one. Cheers.